another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
I'm Emmanuel.
There we go. I like that smile. That was good. I like that. Okay.
Showing off the whites today.
Hey, so today we're gonna talk about what is that? 100% committed, and what does that look like, right? So from a relationship standpoint, if you are 100% committed to that particular relationship, what does that look like, right? Like, what does that commitment look like? And for a lot of people, that can mean a whole bunch of different things. When a person says, "I'm 100% committed to this relationship," right? And all of us know, like, those differences sometimes, like, depending on which relationships you've seen and also which relationships you've been in, how certain people take commitment and how they show commitment. Because some people would think that, hey, I still get to do what I want because I'm still in this relationship. That means that, I leave the house at 5 and I'll be back at midnight. You know what I'm saying? like that's okay. Like, that's okay and stuff like that. They may be okay for some, right? But that may not be okay for other people, right?
Right.
So determining, I guess, what 100% commitment looks like, I think that's more of a relational thing, like two people sitting down, talking about it, saying, hey, this is something that's going to be okay for me, right? This is something that's going to be okay for you. And how can we find compromise in the middle of that whole thing? Because if you don't do that, it's a wild, wild west. People just do whatever they want. And then it's a whole bunch of people get mad. So for you guys, right? Like, how do you think that, you guys would determine commitment? Don't talk all at once.
1-2. I'm waiting on the 1-2.
That's good.
Emmanuel?
We waiting on
Well, for
Emmanuel.
me, it's two words that I have to kind of determine that, and it's really a matter. It depends, right? Those are my two words. It depends. It depends on the people involved. 100%. So 100% commitment at the very foundation. At its very foundation depends on the two people involved, what they deem necessary, what they need out of a relationship, and what they expect out of a relationship. Commitment. I mean, we could talk about the foundationals. I think one is definitely going to be loyalty, or we talk about monogamy, when you're solely committed in that aspect to your partner. I think that's 100%. You could talk about mentally committed, to supporting, uplifting, encouraging. Spiritually, if there's a spiritual side of the relationship, you can hit all of these arenas. But I think it's really hard to just wrap your arms around it because, it's so many different things that people look for. But I think at the very minimum, it's someone who's put all their efforts towards ensuring that the relationship is being put in its best position to succeed. I think that's the simplest way to put it. All of your efforts that you take are efforts that are geared towards progression of your relationship. I think that's a good start.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Did you
It is.
are you reading from Google or something that you got the Webster dictionary over there? Because that sounded good. Okay, that did. Okay, all right, that was verbatim. I like that.
I don't think I got the Webster over here. Oh, Miriam,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Energy, you got your paper ready?
That's
Okay, go ahead.
Is that, you know what? I'm not.
Go ahead.
No, I love how Emmanuel stated that. Like I said, my first response is ditto. He covered the best way to answer that question is it really truly depends, in my opinion, as well, on the two people, whatever it is that they deem being their parameters within their relationship, and both people sticking with it, applying it, and not going outside of those parameters, outside the lines, outside the boundaries. I'm sure that it looks a little bit different once marriage is involved, to some degree, because that can then determine a different level of being 100% committed, with that whole vow of till death do us part, versus if you're in a relationship with someone and you're trying to see where it goes when it comes to, choosing that person as being a lifelong partner, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's marriage or not. Of course, there may be some levels to it as well. So, but I do believe that Emmanuel, he kicked it off very well.
Mhm.
Thank you, Nrgy. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I agree too. Like he just wrapped it up where, you can have you can add other subjects to it. It all depends. It depends on the people that's involved. So you can add other subjects to it, but you do have to have that foundation, and have those conversations. Because even you stated at the beginning that people have different levels of thinking of what commitment looks like, so you really have to have that conversation and know what that person commitment of being 100% committed look like, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
And when you don't have those conversations and you have those thoughts of they're 100% committed, but they looking at you like, I told you I was 100% committed, but I ain't tell you to what
Yeah.
or to what extent.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why you got that expectation of me,
Yeah.
and then it becomes other issues involved, of course, because it's like, oh, I expected it. That's why you just don't lean to your own understanding. You have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
100%.
so something that you said in what you were saying was when a person is not committed, right? What are the signs that a person may not be as committed as they need to be? Like what are those, those red flag moments, right? Like,
I'll
and that's go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What you got?
One of the main things that immediately jumps out to me is the amount of effort or lack thereof.
Yeah.
When a person just stops trying, it's just like they have this nonchalant attitude or air about them now moving, throughout the day-to-day parts of the relationship. Like they're just not trying to put the effort in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
For me, is inconsistency. So that's the number one measure of commitment, in my opinion, is consistency. And to the flip side of that, once you start seeing inconsistency, then that's probably a good sign that commitment is wavering. So always look for that inconsistency to kind of give me that red flag warning.
Yeah. So inconsistency in what form though? Like
In any
Routines.
form,
okay.
any form. It could be in the bedroom. It could be communication. It could be attitudes. It could be, it could be anything. But once there's some type of inconsistency, if it hasn't been discussed, if it hasn't been brought to the table that there is a concern or anything like that, inconsistency normally is like your little alert signal
Yeah.
that something's off. If this person every day texts you midday to check on you, how you doing, how's life, how's your day at work, and then next week they did that twice, there's a problem. Okay. If this person every day you get home, they give you a hug, they give you a kiss. Next day or next week, you come in the house, they sit on the couch still watching TV, act like you never came in the house. There's a problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter which arena you want to look at it in. If it was consistent and then it starts to waver, there's probably an indication that there's not 100% being put in anymore for whatever reason. There's a reason,
Yeah.
but 100% is not there.
Yeah. No, I got that part. I was just thinking to myself, sometimes when you start noticing inconsistencies with certain people, consistency is hard for anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like to be 100% consistent all the time, it's hard for just people in a relationship or not in a relationship because it takes prioritizing certain things, right? Like you have to prioritize to do certain things at certain times, or even just making sure that in that given day you get it done. So when you talk about prioritizing and being consistent with an individual, that means that you have to make sure you put that individual sometimes above your own self sometimes. And that's kind of hard per se, kind of hard. From a relationship standpoint, it is, because if you think about it, all the demands that are on a person in a relationship, right? Like work, maybe you got kids, maybe you got friends, maybe you got all these other people. They want your time too. You know what I'm saying? Like they want half of your time too. So that means that how much of your time is left for your partner, right? Like how much of that is left for that person is, like you were saying, like if that person is being like inconsistent, you start noticing some things, not jumping to conclusions, I guess, right? Like not they're not being committed, but it could just be something else, right? Like it could just be like they just not prioritizing what, like they're not doing the right things with their time. Like that's the thing. A lot of times people automatically assume that a person is not committed, but sometimes there's, like you were saying, several different factors to what's going on with that person. And most times, from what I've seen, people just assume, right? Like you assume too much. And sometimes when you assume it, it could be wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could be wrong about that. But that's
Yeah.
just that's just my theory though,
One thing I
That's
do
where
want,
communication becomes really important. We always say, always say that communication is, one of the staples in a successful and healthy relationship, whether it be platonic or intimate. That's where communication has to come in. If you're noticing yourself or your schedule or your typical routine or timing of things, being a little bit different than usual, than normal, then it would be wise to communicate that in advance or be proactive about communicating that with your partner. So therefore it alleviates a lot of that assumption that you were talking about, Josh.
yeah, and then also with the consistency piece, it doesn't have to be every day in order to have a consistency to it, right? So if every Friday, once a week, y'all have movie night, if that happens once a week, that's consistent, right? So now if next week, oh, I forgot about movie night, or like those are red flags,
Oh, that's bull crap. Now that we having movie night every week, and then you gonna turn around, you forgot, you ain't forget.
right? Exactly. Well,
And we
yeah,
ain't assuming nothing.
exactly.
No, that's bull crap.
Right. And then that's a
Bring
clear
that
lack of,
popcorn.
and that's a clear lack of commitment, right?
Right.
Because if you're committed to something, you're not going to miss it. And if you should happen to miss it, there is definitely going to be communication prior to missing it that you will not be able to make it. So like, that's just a part of being committed. If you're committed to anything, you're not just no showing, so that communication, that piece Nrgy said is really key, because yeah, things can happen, but was there communication? What kind of communication was it? Did it seem like there was some type of actual like sorrow or like apologeticness behind the communication? Like that, I'm sorry, babe, I can't make it. We can reschedule. Like all that stuff kind of coincides with someone's commitment level.
Yeah, and I could, once I think about it, I can kind of like go off of what Josh said too, because I guess, I could be empathetic today and say that depending on what kind of day they might have been having, and it might have been just a rough day for them. And some people, when they have rough days, not saying that they're not committed to their partner, but it could just be like, I just needed to like sleep. You know what I'm saying? So it might not have been they intentionally forgot about movie night, but it could have been I just needed to sleep. My day was really bad. But then I would expect for them to like once they like, I guess, get up, have a conversation with me, you know what I'm saying? But don't come the next day, 24 hours later, 30 hours later, act like we friends, because we probably not friends at that point. Because it's about communication. Like I understand if you had a rough day. I get it. And I get that you went to sleep. But we talking about 24 hours, 40 hours, 48 hours, 30 hours later, you texting me and don't text me. I don't even think that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because people read too much into text messages. My thing is you could pick up you could call. My number been on speed dial. You call in other time. So don't text me because I'm gonna really feel some type of way with that texting conversation. But that's gonna be communicated ahead of time.
You're right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's a valid point. Like what you said, that you basically confirmed what I was saying, right? Like that's a valid point. Is removing that whole idea of it was intentional per se, but you do have to follow up after that whole fact to make sure that you smooth it out. Like you smooth it out with the person so that they may not feel that way. You know, they might not feel like you just kind of abandoning them and stuff like that. You know? Yeah, that's right, Aphrodite. Hey, that's probably not how you say it. That's probably not how you say it.
I mean, it is right, but to me, it's a time frame with that follow up.
Yeah.
For me, you know, it's a time frame for me. This is my personal thing.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, my time frame is beforehand, so my time frame is a little more stricter than yours. But yeah, I believe that anybody should be communicating with their partner if they're not in a good mood or something is missed, you know, and following that maybe that next day or when they wake up. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But yeah, this is your piece though, Josh. I just like one time doesn't make someone a suspect. Okay, I just want to say that.
Right.
Like, because like if someone makes 99 shots from the free throw line, they miss one, they're still a consistent shooter. Like we can trust they're consistent. But if they're now missing half, you know, then now they're no longer consistent. So same way here, like if it's one movie night that you're not feeling well, okay, you know, life goes on. People don't always feel good. But if now every other week you can't make it, you're sick, you forgot, like those are the signs of the times where we got to say, all right, now you're getting inconsistent, and now my antennas are going up from the commitment standpoint.
But you got also, Emmanuel, you have to understand that's situational depending on the person, because some people at the first moment of what they would consider that situation we discussed, they would consider that as inconsistent for them, you know, because sometimes people just don't think life happens.
Right. That's true. And that might have to be a conversation.
Right.
For them to understand that, you know, I'm not a robot, you know, I am a human. Things happen. I respond to these things in different ways. And yeah.
So, you know, what's interesting about this commitment conversation is that sometimes commitment, I think, is tied to a person's expectations of what commitment looks like, you know?
Of course.
So you could say that, okay, by the signs of what this person is actually doing, it appears to me that they are less than consistent. They don't seem like they committed to me. But again, that is our perception, right? But if you talk to that person, right, they'd be like, I thought I was doing everything right. You know, like I thought I was, you know, fulfilling the needs that need to be fulfilled and stuff like that. And I'm not sure if anybody's like heard of that before, but that happens a lot, right? Like when you have two different levels or two different understandings, right, of what commitment looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And like I said, I think that part right there, I think that happens when people don't have that conversation in the beginning, right? Which is the what does commitment look like to you, right? Like, what does that look like to you? What role do I need to fulfill once we get into this relationship, right? Because by the time all these things starts to happen and stuff like that, you already mad. Like that person's probably done so many things that were wrong that it's kind of hard to go back and fix it at that point.
But it's a commitment and it's expectation. Because, and the reason why I say that is because we can be committed, but it's like what your expectation was not my expectation. So it's almost like what you said, but it's expectation too, because you got with along with that commitment talk, you need to know what you're going to expect, you know. So it won't be, oh, well, I thought you was going to give it a 10, but you only gave it a 5. But it's also got to be, you have to know what level they are, that your partner is at. They might just only be at a level 5, seriously, in that area. You know, so even your expectations with your commitment got to be on the table. You got to have that talk, that conversation.
Yeah. I think that's a 2-part conversation though.
It
Like,
is.
like you gotta have that conversation with yourself, and then you gotta have that with them too. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Like you gotta have that conversation with yourself first to make sure that your expectations are one realistic, right? They're in line with what this person can actually achieve, you know. And then 2, once you realize that, have that conversation with them, right? And see what they can offer, right? Like see what they can do to kind of bridge that gap between your expectations and what they can provide. Because if you don't do if you don't do that, that's a recipe for disaster, like it is. Because a lot of people, depending on the person, they may can like operate at a certain level, and they may can give you exactly what you're looking for. But sometimes you have those individuals you can't. Like it's like stretching abilities, right? Like it's stretching their abilities. They're not gonna make it. They're just not gonna do it. It's not. It's just
I
part
think
of
you
it.
got, yeah, I think you got to have that conversation. It's probably not the right person. That's just partially what I think. I know that sounds bad, but like, you know, if you meet somebody, this is your partner, and y'all then have to talk about, you know, I mean, maybe there's some specifics that you have, right? But there should be a general understanding of behaviors or um, actions that should follow someone who's 100% committed in a relationship, right? And then if there's specifics, then y'all can talk about that. But it shouldn't be too far off the mark. I guess that's my thought process on it. It shouldn't be like we got to have this whole sit down to try to make sure that what I understand is what you understand. It should just kind of be, okay, we generally on the same level. I have some specific preferences here. You messed up on that. You didn't know. Hey, darling. Hey, babe. You know, I like X, Y, and Z. You know, and then they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But see, my thing is with that is that's what assuming and assumptions comes in as. You have that conversation, so it won't be no more assuming, no more assumptions, and it's been talked about.
So let's be honest.
Because people jump out, like I have seen it in so many situations, and I'm like, well, did you talk to them about it? Well, I just assume because you know we've been operating. Okay, that's how y'all was operating then.
Right.
So you might have switched. They might not have caught your switch. So you had a conversation.
In my opinion, nobody can off the rip tell somebody every expectation they have.
No, they can't tell every expectation, Emmanuel, but we come in with expectations. Don't act like we don't. We come in with certain levels of expectation regardless of what it is. That's in a basic relationship. That's even in a friendship. We come in with expectations. So no, because you don't want it to be a miscommunication. So we're not gonna you can go ahead and nip that in the bud in the beginning. Because I think you leave the door open a lot of times when you don't have those type of conversations, because we just assuming and it should be this level and we should really talk about it. No, let's talk about it.
I've never had a conversation with any of my friends about my expectation going in.
I have.
So you got a regular friend and y'all are talking about your expectation of them.
We talk about each other's expectation. We do. You want to know why? Because I left that door open thinking she understood my expectation and she didn't. And it disappointed me and it hurt my feelings. You know what I'm saying? So when I had that conversation with her, because I was thinking, oh, she should know me. We've been friends 5, 10, 20 years, but she should know me. But you got to understand, I air change daily.
Exactly.
So she didn't understand that. So she hurt my feelings. So guess what I had? No, I had it. This is what I expected of you. And it's my fault because I didn't come to you and let you know that this is what I expected of you. No, you have to have that expectation. And then I allow her to have that door open to me. What do you expect of me? You know, how can we proceed from this point on? So it won't be a miscommunication. And then I ain't got to walk around here with my feelings hurt. And you don't either.
I'm with her. Oh,
I don't know. It just seemed too structured.
okay.
It seemed too. It just seemed too structured. Like in the grand
It's
scheme,
not so much it's structured. It just leaves issues out.
the issues will always exist, though.
The
So, like,
issues will exist, but it's not going to exist in the areas that people are always going to agree to disagree, or they're not going to agree. That's human life. But if that's my expectation, that's my expectation. How the hell she supposed to know if I don't tell her? Or how your partner supposed to know if you don't speak about it? You just gonna say, well, you should have known. That's your fault. That's your issue.
oh, I agree with that part. I just don't agree with getting mad. For me, it's that simple. If someone does something that didn't meet your expectation and you didn't tell them, why are you mad? They didn't know.
Okay.
they didn't know. So
Okay.
it's like, all right, this is my friend, this is my partner. They did something that I didn't quite like. I never told them. They couldn't have known. Hey, friend. Hey, partner. You did this. Generally, when it comes to this is kind of what I expect. This is kind of how I think things should work. What do you think? Okay, cool. All right, life goes on. But what I'm getting from you is, all right, hello, my name is Aphrodite and you are, okay, so these are my expectations. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's kind of like structured. It's like super structured. It's like,
I'm not even gonna say it's super structured, but it's like I think in an open conversation, you just have certain conversations.
yeah.
I just think generally a general conversation it's not like, oh, you better do A, B, C, or D because I expect. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
But it was just because of that situation. I was like, well, damn, I didn't communicate that. So I had to take that, but I also had to correct it on my end and their end because I'm like, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes we have all these freaking expectations for people, and you think they're committed to their expectation, and they don't really know.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you entirely. I agree with the premise is that people need to know your expectation. And I guess my stance is kind of, it goes with the flow. As you guys build a relationship, you kind of share expectations. If there are some really big ones or really sensitive ones to you, you might get those on the table a lot sooner. And then as you guys just kind of live life or go through experiences, you share other ones as things happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
So let me give you a scenario right quick, because I was forming this as you guys were talking. So I was just kind of playing it in my head right quick, trying to really think about it. So you remember that, I guess this is from a little previous show though, but we were talking about that initial approach to a new person and they have to look a certain kind of way and stuff like that. Like, you remember that? Like you guys, y'all talking about that, like, they gotta look a certain kind of way, right?
Was this talking about last episode?
Yes.
Okay.
So
You talking about your number 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So let's take that premise, right? You gotta be above a 4. Okay, let's take that premise, right? So
Okay.
you get with somebody, obviously they fit your numbers, all that other kind of stuff, right? And you're in a committed relationship, right?
Right.
But you find out that they're a selfish lover, right? Which is, everybody's familiar with the selfish lover premise, right?
No, could you explain, please?
Okay, selfish lover premise is they get theirs. They not worried about you getting yours. Okay.
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 Okay. So that's the selfish lover premise right there, okay? You
Okay.
find that out, right? Okay. And obviously, that was an expectation that you had in your head that, hey, when I lay down with a person, they gonna make sure that I get mine too, right?
Right.
Obviously, that expectation was wrong with that
Right.
person because it was not discussed
Right.
in the beginning, right?
That's fair.
Okay, so it's like
My process stays the same. It stays the same. So as soon as that happens, as soon as I give it twice, I give it 2 times because I'm just a generous man. Okay. So the second time this happens, we're gonna have a talk. And I'm not gonna be mad. I'm not gonna be mad because she didn't know. She didn't know this is how I operated. Maybe this was okay with other partners. But I have that sense of, I don't know, I have that understanding to where I'm not going to be easily frustrated by something that I haven't outwardly communicated. Like, that's how my expectations work. I don't expect anything of anybody. You know, I do to a degree, but not to the point where it's going to like hurt me, you know? So it's like, if this happens, all right, cool, let's talk about it. And we'll talk about it and come to an understanding, and hopefully things should be going well afterwards, you know?
I'm telling you, it's something about those core beliefs and your values, all right? Because if that's high on your value equation, right? Like if sexual satisfaction is high on your value equation, you gonna feel a certain kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying, like you gonna feel a certain kind of way. But everybody values different things. You know what I'm saying? Like you could value a person like really emotionally connecting with you, and they happen not to like to talk or something like that, and that can really hurt you because it's like, you know, I value that. Like that's something that I really value in a person. So if it goes against something you really value, you cannot say that you're not gonna be upset by it because that's like somebody cutting you because it's like that's something that you have on the top of your priority list when it comes to getting to know somebody. Like that, like it's other things that you may have on your list that might be a lower priority that you may feel like, okay, yeah, that's not a big deal. We can just have a conversation or whatever. But those things that are like medically necessary on top of your list, you're gonna feel a certain kind of way with, you know, when it doesn't happen the way that you think it should happen. That's human nature. Like that's how that works.
I'm not saying I won't feel a type of way, but I have the understanding that this is not what everybody may do. So from me having that understanding, I'm only so affected because it's like, this may not have been intentional, right? This may not have been some intentional act against me. Maybe this person is just
that example was intentional, but go ahead, I got it.
You know. If it's a selfish lover, you described a selfish lover, right? So
that example,
selfishness is not always intentional. Some people are just selfish and they just don't know how not to be. You know, I don't believe every selfish act was a active decision. I think some people just don't realize that they're selfish. Maybe this is not the case. Maybe this person is very intentional and definitely does it. I'm still not going to get mad the first time because they don't know any better. And that's the way I treat it. Like, if people don't know better, you can't get mad at them. That's just the way I think. They don't, if I haven't told you, then, you know, unless it's just something that's just complete common knowledge. If you're in a relationship, you don't cheat. Yeah, some people don't really think like that, but the majority of people do. If you're in a committed relationship with one person, you should not step out of that. That should be a common understanding. Like, that would be something I might not have as much patience on. And I mean, that would probably be the only thing I could think of on the top of my head that I would be like, all right, what's going on? I might not have so much understanding with that, but for the most part, like,
value, right? That's a value right there. I mean,
okay? But you're in a relationship, like it's
I'm just saying, but again,
do you know how these relationships are these
you're
days?
in a committed relationship, right? We're talking about
that doesn't mean they're not in a committed relationship.
Right. What does committed mean?
For them. That's why we said
Right.
it was situational.
Well, what does committed mean though? Like committed means that you are committed to this thing.
Committed, okay, so committed and monogamous, right? Like committed, they monogamous, like you just those two words they go together, right?
They should.
Okay, that's what I mean, right?
They should.
So a person can be committed but not be monogamous.
Monogamous.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And then that would be something where, okay, I would have a problem with that. But more than likely, I'm sure we would have somehow touched bases on that when we started talking. Because if someone is polygamous, they're gonna probably talk about other people at some point. Like we're not gonna get too far before they start talking about other partners. And I would have figured that out well before we got in a fully committed relationship. That's just my thought process on that. I mean, hopefully so. Otherwise, I would be butthurt. Or I would be mad. So
my time. We got something you're gonna be hurt by. That's good. Okay.
To Josh's point, I would be mad. Though I don't expect that to ever happen, but if it did, then I'll be mad. Yeah. I'll be mad.
Nrgy, okay? You all right? Like you just, I mean, you taking this all in. I know you got some. You got something to say?
I'm good.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay,
yes, this is good.
This is some good stuff right now.
It is.
It is.
That's funny. But this commitment conversation is so it's so interesting. It's so vast. Like it is. Like we talking about all different angles of commitment and committed and monogamous, and that's a whole nother realm of conversation right there. Because when you committed to somebody, hey, you got committed to that one person. That sounds like a conversation that needs to be had too, I guess. In the beginning, hey,
it shouldn't have to be, but it is.
I mean, it is.
I'm saddened to say.
It's I don't know. It's the idea of relationships though. Like whenever people start getting into relationships, there's not a handbook. Like nobody gonna give you a handbook for your first girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever. Like they're not gonna say, hey, this is what you do in a committed relationship, right? Like this is how you supposed to act, and this is how you supposed to do things and stuff. And most times people just make it up as they, you go along, you get in different situations, you figure out, what's comfortable for you and stuff like that. So again, everybody's level of commitment and what that means is like so different. Like it is. It's like it's crazy how different it is. Like
it is.
That's true.
It is.
It is.
But conversations, right? Like we always talk about communication, how important having conversations are. Gotta have a conversation with this stuff.
Yes.
Like this topic is so complex.
Yeah.
Right, Nrgy? It's complex, right?
Right.
Okay, you're good.
Shoot. You have to talk though, because especially with the world that we are in today, like there's just so many different versions of everything now. To where to keep yourself safe, you better talk about the stuff that matters. We're no longer living in a world, in my opinion, where you can just kind of assume everybody understands that, okay, this is what a standard relationship looks like, and these are the basics. Even as much as we want to be able to say that, it's just unfortunately there's just too many different versions of how things are done, and not everyone, but a lot of people live in their own world. They create their own world. They create their own relationship or what it looks like to them. So you have to ask, you have to talk, because otherwise you're going to waste time and you might get your feelings hurt.
That's true.
Funny. I don't know. I just had to laugh at that because you definitely gonna get your feelings hurt.
Definitely get your feelings hurt about that selfish level part. Okay, you gonna get your feelings.
That's just one moment. You be good.
That one moment hurt. Okay, that one moment hurt.
That's just one moment. God.
Hey,
You
that one
understand?
moment, hey, you can't recover from that sometimes. Like, hey, that's it. Okay, that.
Yeah.
After once, really?
After one time.
See? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's just a conversation, man. That's just a conversation. It's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right.
Dang, Josh.
Oh man.
Imagine me finding out my partner is polygamous. That's hard. That ain't one moment. That ain't one moment. Okay. That ain't just yeah, I gotta go to sleep, you know, feeling bad.
That ain't no walk to the bathroom, huh?
Nah, that ain't no walk to the bathroom, okay?
Hey, that'll walk out to your car.
That's a bad day.
I'll walk them to their car.
Hey, just go walk up to the car, just crank it up. Okay, just
pull off.
All that Uber.
Hey, I'm just saying, okay? Shoot, that's devastating, okay? Shoot, you gonna need some strong that day, okay?
That's funny.
Oh man, that's so funny. But it's a great way to end this episode. Committed. Okay, yeah. So another episode of Adding Perspective with Josh. I'm Josh.
Don't assume. Have a conversation. I'm Coach Nrgy.
I'm Aphrodite.
I'm Emmanuel.
That's it.